Pastor Russ here with hope for today. We all know that tomorrow is Thanksgiving, a national holiday that we celebrate on the fourth Thursday of each year. Thanksgiving actually began with a proclamation from President George Washington in 1789, the very first year he served as our president. It came from a request from Congress. The original date of Thanksgiving dates all the way back to 1621, when the Pilgrims used a harvest festival to celebrate and give thanks to God for his blessings. But here's a question I want to ask you. Where did the name Pilgrims come from? It wasn't actually used to refer to the Mayflower settlers until 1840. So what happened? The Pilgrims, although they weren't originally called that, originated from a separatist congregation in Scrooby, England. They were referred to as a separatist congregation because they dissented and broke away from the Church of England, hence the name separatist. But in England, they suffered great persecutions because they had broken away from the Church of England. So much so that in 1607, the congregation moved to Holland, where they had more religious freedom. They eventually settled in the Dutch city of Leiden, where they stayed for 12 years. However, their life was very difficult and very hard there, not so much because of religious persecution. They had much greater religious freedom, but economically they suffered because they had no chance at the really good jobs. But eventually, what caused them to move and leave Holland and move to the New World, to America, actually was because of their teenagers. This is something I had never heard. Maybe you know about it, but I certainly did not. But here's a quote. Many of their children, by the great license of the youth in that country, referring to Holland, and the manifold temptations of the place, were drawn away by evil examples into extravagant and dangerous courses. It's pretty cool to know that one of the reasons they actually left was because of their children. They loved their kids so much that they were willing to move to a new foreign country to have, hopefully have their children have not only a better life, but also have a faith in their Savior, Jesus Christ. So in 1620, many from that congregation and settlement in Leiden immigrated to the United States, to America, to the Americas. But again, they were not called Pilgrims until 1840, 220 years later. So what happened? William Bradford was the original colony leader of the Plymouth colony. And in 1840, some of his writings were kind of uncovered or rediscovered, if you would. And one of the things that he said, or he wrote rather, was this. He says that they, referring to the colony, the colonists that left, they left Leiden. He said that goodly and pleasant city, which had been their resting place for near 12 years, but they knew they were pilgrims. There's the term. But they knew they were pilgrims and looked not much on these things, but lift up their eyes to the heavens, their dearest country, and quieted their spirits. So since the 1840s, when this writing was kind of unearthed, that the Mayflower settlers from that time on have been called pilgrims. But did you also know this, that the term pilgrim that Bradford referred to actually comes from a Bible verse? It comes from Hebrews chapter 11, verses 13 through 16. Let me share that passage with you. It says, and by the way, Hebrews 11, as you probably are aware, is the kind of the spiritual hall of fame. And here we read about some of the great people of our faith, Noah and Abraham and so forth. In verse 11, the writer pens these words. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were pilgrims, there's the word, they were pilgrims and aliens and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have the opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. As you celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow, I hope indeed you'll take some time to reflect on the incredible blessings that God has given to you and to our country. But also to remember this, that you and I are also pilgrims. strangers kind of on this earth, because we know that this earth is not our permanent home. That one day when our physical bodies give way, God is going to bring us to our permanent home in heaven. I hope that you have an incredible and a very happy Thanksgiving. Don't forget, you're a pilgrim too.